reproduction in organism, which comes under the unit reproduction. So before going to know about the reproduction, that is what is reproduction and its type, let us study about the first, that is lifespan. So let us know about lifespan. So now what is lifespan? So lifespan is nothing but it is a period between birth to death. That means the duration which comes between the birth to the death is considered as a lifespan of an organism. So when it comes to the lifespan, each and every individual organism, they have their own different lifespan. So that the lifespan may varies. The lifespan may be shorter as a few days or it may be longer as a few hundred to 1,000 years. So that means every organism, they have a different lifespan, and the lifespan may vary from shorter to the longer lifespan. So for example, when we take a example of both shorter and longer lifespan, we can take some of the examples. For example, for shorter lifespan, we can take some example, and for longer also we can take some example. For the shorter, first we can take an example of a mayfly, which is also called as an one-day insect, because its lifespan is only 24 hours. So that's why it is called as a one-day insect, or another name is nothing but the mayfly. So when it comes to the butterfly, this is also having a lifespan of between 1 to 2 weeks. That means the lifespan of a butterfly, average lifespan of a butterfly is nothing but 1 to 2 weeks. So in the same way, if we take in case of plant, rice have a lifespan of 3 to 4 months. It have a lifespan of 3 to 4 months. So these are some of the examples in which we can see the lesser lifespan, or we can say shorter lifespan. So when it comes to the example for a longer lifespan, we can take an example of a banyan tree, which have a lifespan of about 200 years, and another example we can take, that is tortoise, which have a lifespan of about 100 to 150 years, and also one more example we can take, that is nothing but elephant, which have a lifespan of about 60 to 90 years. So these are some of the examples we can take for a longer lifespan. So next, another point is there about the lifespan, that is nothing but there is no any correlation between the size and the lifespan. There is no any correlation. There is no any correlation between size and the lifespan of an organism. For this we can take an example. For example, elephant have a lifespan of about 60 to 90 years, which is a bigger organism. But when it comes to the tortoise, even though it's a smaller organism, it can live up to 100 to 150 organism and then the lifespan of an organism. So in this way we can say that different organisms have their different lifespan. So next, see, when it comes to the lifespan, whatever may be the lifespan of an organism, but not even a single individual is immortal except the unicellular organisms, because each and every organism, it should grow and it should attain a period of aging, and then it should die. So that's why we can say that whatever may be the lifespan of an individual, but it does not considered as an immortal because it have a death, but except the unicellular organism, that we can discuss in the next part of this lesson, it is during the fission. So let us move on to the different phases of a lifespan. So lifespan have three phases. It have a three phases. The first one is nothing but juvenile phase, which is also called as an vegetative phase, and the term used juvenile in case of animals and vegetative in case of plants. Both are considered as the same phase only, but when it comes to mention during the animals, we use the term juvenile phase, and when it comes to the plants, we are going to use the term vegetative phase. And this phase is considered as an non-reproductive growth phase. It is non-reproductive growth phase. And the second phase of the lifespan is nothing but the reproductive phase. Reproductive phase. It is a duration or it is a period where living organisms produce offsprings of their own kind by reproduction. So that means in this reproduction phase, organisms are able to produce the new individuals of their own kind. So that's why this phase is considered as a reproductive phase. And the third one, the last phase is nothing but aging or senescence phase. So here also we have to remember that the word aging is used in case of animals while mentioning the animals, and the word senescence is going to be used while mentioning the plants. Both are considered as same only, that is the period of aging only. So but the term used is different. That means when it comes to the animal it is used as aging, and when it comes to the plants it is used as senescence phase. So in this particular phase, organisms lose the capacity of reproduction due to aging. So that means in a aging phase or a senescence phase, the organisms are going to lose the capacity of producing their own kind, that means lose the capacity of a reproduction due to the aging process. So these are the three phases of a lifespan. So these three phases comes between the birth to the death of an organism. Okay, let us know about the reproduction. So first let us know the definition of the reproduction. So reproduction is nothing but it is a biological process in which organism is able to produce young one, that is offspring of its own kind. So this is the definition of the reproduction. Reproduction, it is a biological process in which the individual organism is able to produce an young one of its own kind. So during the reproduction process, or when we comes to the reproduction, we can say that some of the advantages were there, that means significance were there. That's why reproduction process is most important for the survival of the life. So let us see what are all the significance of a reproduction. So significance of reproduction. When it comes to the significance of reproduction, the first significance is nothing but it helpful in continuation of species from generation to generation. So that means the first significance of the reproduction is nothing but reproduction helpful in a continuation of a generation, or we can say continuation of a species from one generation to the another generation. So another significance is it helps in genetic recombination which leads to formation of different species. It helpful in a genetic recombination, that means the reproduction process helpful in a genetic recombination by which we can see the formation of a different species. That is nothing but the evolution, we can say. That means it leads to the process of evolution. It leads to the evolution. And one more significance is there, that is nothing but it maintains, that means the process of reproduction maintains the balance, or we can say it maintains the stability of the living organism and ecosystem. It maintains the stability of a number of living organisms and the ecosystem. That means in particularly the number of species in a particular area, or we can say in a particular ecosystem, is most important. If any one of the species is not there or it is extinct, then the ecosystem is going to be disturbed and it is going to get imbalanced. So that's why for the process of stability, or to maintain the stability of an ecosystem or living organism numbers in a particular area, the reproduction process is going to helpful. That means by the process of reproduction, the number of organisms are going to be increased and they are going to maintain the stability in the ecosystem. So that's why these are the sum of the significance we can see in case of a process of a reproduction. So let us summarize. That means it helpful in the continuation of a generation. Next one is it helpful in a genetic recombination which leads to the formation of a different species. That is nothing but it leads to the formation of an, or we can say it leads to the process of an evolution. So next one is the stability of the living organism, and also the stability of the ecosystem is going to be maintained by the process of a reproduction. Okay, let us know about the types of reproduction now. So now first let us know about over there. So that is, the first one is nothing but asexual reproduction, and the next one is nothing but sexual reproduction. First one is asexual reproduction and the second one is nothing but sexual reproduction. So here on this topic they may ask the difference between the sexual and asexual method of reproduction. So let us know about the asexual method of reproduction. Asexual reproduction is nothing but, in this one, only one individual is going to participate in a process of reproduction. So that means reproduction in which single organism is able to produce an offspring. That is, we can say that asexual reproduction is nothing but it is uniparental. It is uniparental. It is uniparental method of reproduction. When it comes to the sexual method of reproduction, here two different individuals that is male and female participate in reproduction. So that means sexual method of reproduction is biparental. It is biparental. And when it comes to the another difference between the sexual and asexual method of reproduction, the asexual method of reproduction, asexual reproduction takes place by the somatic cells. So it takes place by somatic cells. And when it comes to the sexual reproduction, it occurs by the germ cells. So that means the somatic cells participates in the asexual method of reproduction and germ cells are going to participate in the sexual method of reproduction. When it comes to the type of cell division occur in asexual method of reproduction, we can see the mitotic cell division. Mitotic division occur in an asexual method of reproduction. Whereas in sexual method of reproduction, meiosis will occur. Meiosis division occur for the formation of gametes. So another point is there about the asexual method of reproduction, that is nothing but the young one, or we can say offsprings, are morphologically and genetically similar to their parents. In asexual reproduction, offsprings are morphologically and genetically similar to their parents. So, which are considered as an clones. So, these are considered as an clones. As these organisms, that means the organisms which are formed by the process of an asexual reproduction, which have same morphological and genetical structure. So, that is why they are considered as an clones. And when it comes to the sexual method of reproduction, offsprings are genetically different from their parents. So, another difference we can see that in asexual method of reproduction, there is no any fusion of gametes. So, no fusion of gametes. In case of sexual reproduction, we can see the fusion of male and female gametes. So, these are the sum of the differences between a asexual reproduction and a sexual method of reproduction. So, let us summarize. So, in a asexual method of reproduction, we can see only one individual is going to participate in a method of reproduction. Whereas, in case of a sexual method of reproduction, there is a need of two parents. One is male individual, another one is female individual. So, next one is nothing but, so as the only one individual is able to produce the new individual, that means offspring. So, asexual method of reproduction is considered as an uniparental reproduction, whereas the sexual reproduction is considered as an biparental reproduction. So, when comes to the another difference, that is nothing but, so here in case of an asexual method of reproduction, the participation of an somatic cells we can see, that is nothing but which are considered as an vegetative cells, and when comes to the sexual method of reproduction, we can see the participation of the germ cells, which are nothing but a reproductive cells. So, next one is the type of division occur in this particular reproduction method is nothing but, when comes to the asexual method of reproduction, we can see the which is nothing but an equational division, and when comes to the sexual method of reproduction, we can see the meiosis division, which helpful in the formation of an haploid gametes. So, next one is nothing but, offsprings are morphologically and genetically identical in case of the asexual method of reproduction, whereas in case of sexual method of reproduction, offsprings which are produced, they are not identical, that means they are not similar genetically or morphologically similar to their parents. So, when comes to the clones, so clones are nothing but the organisms which are genetically and morphologically similar with their parents. So, that is why those are considered as an clones, and these clones are going to be formed by the process of an asexual method of reproduction. So, next one is nothing but the another difference, that is but in case of asexual method of reproduction, there is no any fusion of gametes. Either it may occur by the formation of gamete also, that means asexual, in some of the cases asexual method of reproduction may occur by the formation of a gamete also, but there is no any fusion of a male and female gamete. So, individual gamete itself may be converted into the new individual, but there is no any chance of fusion of male and female gamete. So, that is why we can say that no fusion of gametes in case of an asexual method of reproduction. When it comes to the sexual method of reproduction, there is a fusion of male and female gamete which leads to the formation of an embryo, which leads to the formation of a new young one. So, these are the differences between a sexual and asexual method of reproduction. Okay, let us move on to the types of asexual method of reproduction. Types of asexual reproduction. When it comes to the types of asexual reproduction, there are different types over there. In that one, the first type is nothing but the fission. The first one is nothing but fission. So, fission is the meaning is nothing but the splitting. fission is nothing but the splitting. So by the splitting only the organisms are going to reproduce. That's why this particular method is considered as a fission. So when it comes to the subtypes of a fission, we can see the two subtypes, that is nothing but, the first one is nothing but binary fission, and the second one is but the multiple fission. So let us know about the first binary fission. So when it comes to the binary fission, as the word indicates, here a single individual organism is going to divide into two individual organisms, and they are considered as a new individual organism. So that's why this particular type of reproduction is considered as a binary fission. So here single individual is going to divide and produce two new individuals. So that's why this method is considered as a binary fission. For example, we can take example of amoeba, paramecium, etc. So when it comes to the some of the organisms like amoeba, paramecium, we can see this type of reproduction, that is nothing but the reproduction by the method of a binary fission. So the organisms which are going to reproduce by the method of a binary fission, they are considered as an immortal. So the organisms which reproduce by binary fission are considered as immortal. The word immortal meaning is nothing but there is no any death. There is no death for that particular organism. So that's why it is considered as an immortal. For example, when we take an amoeba, if you take an example of amoeba, if this one is a single amoeba, this amoeba is going to divide into two daughter amoebas, and these two daughter amoebas once again they are going to divide into two more amoebas like this. So and these once again they are going to give rise to two more daughter amoebas by the method of an binary fission. So like this, these amoebas, they goes on producing the daughter amoebas. So that's why these particular organisms, they does not have any death. But the exception case is nothing but, here this method should be occur in a natural only. Otherwise it is considered as an death of an amoeba. For example, if we take an amoeba and if we crush that, then it is going to die. But when it comes to the natural death, these organisms does not have a natural death because due to the binary fission process. So that's why these organisms, that means the organisms which are going to reproduce by the method of an binary fission, they are considered as an immortal. That means they does not have a death. That is the main point in case of this particular binary fission. So amoeba and paramecium, these are the some of the organisms which are going to consider as an immortal because they are going to attain a, that means they are going to attain a method of asexual reproduction, that is nothing but the binary fission. So based on the plane of the division, the binary fission is once again divided into three types. Based on plane of fission, binary fission, is of three types. The first one is nothing but irregular binary fission. For this this we can take an example amoeba. And the second is nothing but the vertical binary fission. For this we can take an example of euglena. The third one is nothing but transverse binary fission. For this we can take an example of paramecium. So these are the three main types which comes under an binary fission based on the plane of fission. So that means when comes to the binary fission, the organism body itself is going to divide it into two individual organisms. That means the parent organism is going to divide and it is going to lead to the formation of a two new individual organisms. So in the particular process, the organism body should divide. So here, based on the plane of division or plane of the particular fission, so there are three types of binary fissions were there. The first one is nothing but irregular binary fission. So when it comes to the example amoeba, as you know, it does not have a particular shape. So in this particular organism, the fission of a body may be start or may occur in any plane. So that's why it is considered as an irregular binary fission. So when it comes to the vertical binary fission, in this case, the euglena is an example, and here the particular fission occurs in a vertical plane. That means, for example, if this one is an body of an euglena, then the body is going to divide in this plane. So this particular vertical division is considered as vertical binary fission. In case of euglena, we can see the vertical binary fission. When it comes to the transverse binary fission, here the fission occurs in an horizontal manner. So the example is nothing but the paramecium. When it comes to the paramecium, which is a slippery like organism, if we take an example of this paramecium, if in this case the organism is going to divide horizontally like this, so that's why it is considered as transverse binary fission. So these are the three types of the binary fissions based on the plane of fission. Okay, let us move on to the next type of fission, that is nothing but second type of fission method, that is nothing but the multiple fission. The second one is nothing but, that is B, multiple fission. So now let us know what is multiple fission. In multiple fission, in this type, a single individual is going to divide to give many daughter cells, many daughter individuals. So that means in case of multiple fission, we can see the division of the particular individual organism, and the division is like that, it is going to produce many new individual organisms at a time. So that's why this is considered as multiple fission. When it comes to the example, the good example we can take, that is nothing but the plasmodium. Plasmodium, which is a protozoan and which is a malarial parasite. Malarial parasite. And this organism is going to reproduce by the method of a multiple fission only. So when it comes to this paramecium, how it is going to produce means, if this one is an paramecium, if we assume this one is an paramecium, so it have a nucleus here, sorry, not paramecium, that is plasmodium. If this one is considered as a plasmodium, if it have a nucleus here, so this particular organism is going to attain a multiple fission. During multiple fission, first the karyokinesis will take place. That means the division of the nuclei will take place. which is going to form the many nuclei, and then this leads to the formation, or this leads to the process of an cytokinesis. So these particular nuclei, daughter nuclei, which are formed inside this particular organism, are going to occupy certain quantity of an cytoplasm, and they are going to produce the membrane around them, and they are going to be formed as a new individual, and these are going to released by the rupture of that particular outer membrane of the particular parent cell. So these organisms are going to be released. So in this way, single individual plasmodium is going to produce the many plasmodium. So that's why this method of reproduction is considered as a multiple fission. So in this multiple fission, first the karyokinesis will take place, that is nothing but the first nuclear division will take place to form the many nuclei condition. So next the cytokinesis will take place, which leads to the formation of the many new individuals or many new cells. So that's why it is considered as a multiple fission. So this multiple fission is also occur in some of the multinucleated organisms like, so the organisms which are having a multinucleated conditions, that means more than one nuclei, those are considered as multinucleated organisms. So in some of the multinucleated organisms like Opelina and Paleomyxa, we can see the multiple fission. So but this multiple fission method is considered as an plasmotomy. This one is considered as an plasmotomy, which is considered as an one of the special method of an asexual method of reproduction. So why this one is considered as a special method of reproduction means, in case of plasmotomy, that means in the particular multinucleated organisms like that means Opelina and Paleomyxa, we can see the both the type of division, that is nothing but the both binary fission and the multiple fission will occur in this particular reproduction. So that's why these particular reproduction or these particular organisms which are going to attain a plasmotomy, they are considered as a special method of an asexual method of reproduction. So here in this particular multiple fission, we can see the formation of an many individuals from a single individual. During unfavorable condition, amoeba is also going to attain a method of multiple fission. So during unfavorable condition, this one is an exceptional case, during unfavorable condition only. But in case of favorable condition, usually the amoeba is going to attain a binary fission. But in case of an unfavorable condition, that means unfavorable condition for the amoeba is nothing but when it is going to face the lack of water, because the water is the main medium where the amoeba is going to live. So that's why during unfavorable condition, that means during the lack of water and all which it needed for its reproduction, it is going to attain a multiple fission of reproduction. So how it is going to attain a multiple fission of reproduction means, it is going to, that means amoeba is going to withdraw its pseudopodia, and it is going to surround or it is going to form a thick wall around it, which is considered as a cyst, and that process is considered as an encystation. That means we can say that amoeba during unfavorable condition is going to attain a multiple method of fission by the formation or by the process of an encystation. So amoeba attain multiple fission during unfavorable condition by the process of encystation. The meaning of encystation is nothing but the formation of the cyst around it. That is nothing but encystation. That means during unfavorable condition, amoeba is going to withdraw its pseudopodia, and it is going to create a thick wall around around it, which is considered as a cyst, and the process is called as an encystation. So after the formation of a cyst, the inside the cyst only, this particular amoeba is going to attain a binary fission, and it is going to form many amoebas inside the cyst only, and during favorable condition, that means when it is going to get a sufficient quantity of water and the good climatic condition for its survival, it is going to remove or it is going to degenerate this particular cyst. Cyst is going to be degenerated or it is going to be ruptured, and the new amoeba, that means the younger amoebas, they comes out from the cyst and they are going to grow as a new individual. So that's why we can say that during unfavorable condition, amoeba is also going to attain a multiple fission, and the process is nothing but an encystation. The process is called as an encystation. Okay, second method of asexual reproduction is nothing but the budding. Second method of asexual reproduction is nothing but the budding. So first let us know what is budding. Budding is nothing but the small bud-like outgrowth which is formed on the surface, which is formed by the body of a new individual. So body of an individual is considered as one of the bird, and this, that means by the process of the formation of a bird when the reproduction takes place, and that method of asexual reproduction is considered as budding. So budding once again is going to be divided into two sub methods. That is nothing but, the first one is nothing but the exogenous bud, exogenous budding. That means here in case of an exogenous budding, the bud is going to form, bud is formed on the surface of the body, surface of the body, and that bud is going to be detached from the body of an organism and it is going to grow into a new individual. So here in case of exogenous budding, we can take an example of yeast, and then we can take an example of an hydra. So these two we can take example for the exogenous budding. When it comes to the yeast, you can observe, if this one is an yeast, it is going to create one small outgrowth on its body surface, and this outgrowth is going to later detach and it is going to grow into a new individual. So this one is considered as an young one. So this one is nothing but the new organism which is formed by the body surface bud. So that's why it is considered as a budding. So next, when it comes to the hydra, if we take an example of hydra, hydra have a mouth like this and it have a body which is in the shape of a vase, and it have a tentacles here like this. So and we can see the small outgrowths which are nothing but buds on this hydra. So this one, that means this particular bud-like structure which is formed on the body surface is considered as an exogenous bud. So as it is going to attain some quantity of growth, this bud is going to detach from the body surface and it is going to attach to the new substratum and it is going to grow as a new individual. So that's why this particular method of the budding, that means the formation of a bud over the body surface of an individual, and those buds are going to later detach from the body of an organism and then they are going to grow into a new individual, is nothing but the exogenous method of an budding. And the second method of an budding is nothing but, second one is endogenous budding. Endogenous budding. And endogenous budding we can see in case of some of the organisms like sponges, that too particularly in case of an spongilla. So here bud is going to form, bud is formed in inside the body of an organism. That's why it is called as an endogenous budding. So bud is going to form inside the body of an organism. That's why it is considered as an endogenous budding. So example for this endogenous budding is nothing but, as I said, example is nothing but spongilla. Spongilla we can take as an example. So this spongilla is nothing but the only one freshwater sponge. For spongilla is an example for only one freshwater sponge. So freshwater sponge. And when comes to this body shape of an spongilla, this one is also having a shape like this. So this particular organism have a pores, that means porous outer layer of its body, and it have a mouth over the upper surface, and the birds are going to form inside layer of the body, that means inside the body surface. And these birds, in case of spongilla, which are considered as the asexual reproductive structures, are nothing but gemmules. For 1 mark question. So which are the asexual reproductive structures of a spongilla? So the asexual reproductive structures of a spongilla are nothing but the gemmules, which are nothing but the endogenous buds of a particular spongilla. So when comes to this particular gemmules, these gemmules, that means the buds are going to helpful in the formation of a new individuals. Okay, let us move on to the structure of an gemmules. So gemmules are nothing but the buds, that means endogenous buds which are formed in a spongilla, that means inside the body of a spongilla. When we take an individual bird, this particular gemmule is having a particular structure like this. This one having a center mass of cell, those are nothing but archaeocysts, and these archaeocysts are the cells which are going to form a new individual. So these particular archaeocysts, they are going to be surrounded by a mucilaginous sheath which having an endogenous, or we can say endoskeleton like structures, which are nothing but the spicules. And this particular gemmule have an opening region, and this one is considered as a substratum for, that means substrating, that means adhering region in a particular gemmule, that is nothing but a micropyle. So these particular gemmule, when they are going to attach to the particular substratum, they will grow there, and this particular pile attached to the substratum, and this structure is going to rupture, and it is going to release the archaeocysts which are nothing but a new individuals into the particular medium, that is particularly into the water, and they are going to grow into the new individual. In this way, this particular gemmules, they are acts as an particular asexual reproductive structures, that too particularly aproductive endogenous buds for the formation of a new individual. So that's why in case of an freshwater sponge, that too particularly the only freshwater sponge, that is spongilla, the gemmules are the reproductive structures. Gemmules are considered as an asexual reproductive structure.